I took out a loan to fund my stepson's dream school. At his graduation dinner, he stood up, clinked his glass, and said, "Thanks to my real dad for making this possible." My wife smiled and never corrected him. I just nodded, paid the bill, and vanished. This morning, 41 missed calls. I sold my late brother's watch to help pay for the deposit. It was a 1962 Omega Seamaster, his pride, gifted by our father before illness took him. I told myself it didn't matter, sentiment is for men with savings, and I hadn't had those since I took out the loan. For Nate, my wife's son. But I'll get to that. First, let me tell you what it's like to sit through a dinner where your entire identity is silently erased. It was a restaurant we couldn't afford. One of those faux authentic spots with exposed brick, truffle oil everything, and a wine list that made your lungs tighten. Nate had graduated that morning summa cum laude, computer science. He had options. Offers. Girls. Teeth that cost more than my last used car. My wife, Vanessa, was beaming. She wore the red dress, the one from our 10th anniversary dinner in Montreal, back when we still touched each other with curiosity. The whole table was there. Her parents, his girlfriend, her parents. Not a seat for me, not really. I was at the edge. Like a waiter who never left. Then Nate stood. Clinked his glass. I remember the way the fork hit the crystal, sharp, casual, like a cue for cruelty. "I just want to thank everyone for supporting me," he said. "Especially my real dad. Without you, none of this would have been possible." He gestured across the table to Charles. Charles? Vanessa's ex-husband. The man who bailed when Nate was 5 and reappeared 2 years ago like a benign tumor, bearing Rolexes and crypto advice. The man who, as far as I know, never paid child support. Never called on birthdays. Who once told Nate over lunch that men who aren't biologically connected shouldn't discipline kids. He raised his glass like a Caesar. And Vanessa smiled. Not a polite smile. Not an embarrassed grimace. She looked proud. She looked serene. She didn't even glance at me. I just sat there, nodding like a priest at a funeral, cheeks aching from the fake smile I wore to stop myself from screaming. Then the bill came. No one reached for it. Of course not. I paid. Nearly $700 with tip. I walked out into the parking lot. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't hug Nate. Just stared at the valet guy until he gave me the keys like he was handing over a loaded gun. I didn't go home. That was 3 nights ago. Tonight, I'm sitting in a motel that smells like bleach and rot. My phone says 41 missed calls. 9 from Vanessa. The rest scattered from Nate, from my sister, from numbers I don't recognize. I think they know I'm not coming back. But they don't know why. Let me explain. Vanessa and I got married when Nate was 8. His dad had already been gone for 3 years. She used to tell me, over long drives and cheap wine, that she never wanted Nate to grow up with a void. That's what she called it. Not a loss. A void. So I filled it. I learned how to pack lunches that didn't get soggy. I read every book on parenting a child that isn't yours. I taught him to swim. I held him the first time he got stitches when he tripped in gym class and split his lip open. He called me Dave until he was 10. Then it became Dad. Not stepdad. Just Dad. I didn't correct him. When he got his acceptance letter to MIT, he screamed. Jumped. Hugged me first. But the money? That was a different beast. Vanessa and I had savings, sure, but nowhere near what was needed. And Charles? He was broke then. Living in some shack in Arizona, selling weed to college kids and pretending to be a consultant. He couldn't contribute a dime. I took out a loan. A private loan. Bad rates. Worse terms. It was either that or tell Nate to go somewhere else. Some state school. Some place that wouldn't look as good on LinkedIn. We never told him about the loan. I didn't want him to feel guilty. We just told him we made it work. I sold the Seamaster. I sold my car. I stopped going to therapy because the copay became a luxury. I told myself it was love. Vanessa cried when we signed the final papers. Not out of guilt, out of relief. And now? Now Charles is rich. Crypto exploded. He bought a Porsche. Came back into Nate's life like he never left. Promised to mentor him. Took him on trips. Introduced him to women who laughed too hard and wore nail polish that looked expensive. Vanessa never objected. She encouraged it. Said maybe it's good for him to know where he comes from. I reminded her where he came from when Charles left. Reminded her who stayed. She told me I was being jealous. That was the first crack. Then came the dinners where they spoke about Nate's future like I was already dead. The job interviews I wasn't told about. The apartment search I found out through his girlfriend's Instagram. I became a background character in my own home. Last month, I found out they had a group chat. Vanessa, Nate, and Charles. They called themselves the Originals. I wasn't in it. I only found out because Nate left his laptop open. They weren't subtle. Screenshots of tweets, jokes at my expense. One read. Dave's still trying to dad me like I'm 10. LOL. Another from Vanessa. He means well. Just let him think he's helping. That one burned. But I said nothing. Why? Because I thought maybe this was just a phase. That once graduation came, once the adrenaline faded, he'd remember. That moment never came. Instead, he raised his glass. Thanked his real dad. And my wife. The woman I once watched sleep with her face pressed into my chest. Who once whispered, "You saved me." When Nate called me dad for the first time, said nothing. She smiled. I've been gone 3 days. I haven't turned on location sharing. I haven't answered a single message. But I read them. Vanessa's latest. "We need to talk. Please." Nate's. "You left over a toast? Grow up." Then last night Charles texted me. "Hey man. Sorry if that toast came off wrong. Didn't mean to cause drama. But Nate's an adult now. You did your part. Let's move on. Let's move on." As if I was an unpaid intern being let go after the company IPOs. As if I hadn't bled my future into that boy's education. But that's not the worst part. No, the worst part? I went to check the loan account this morning. Guess who missed the last 2 payments? Vanessa. She had one job while I worked weekends at the warehouse. Manage the payments. Just one job. Now it's in default. They're threatening to garnish wages. And when I called the lender, guess what? The account was changed. New contact info. A different bank card. One I don't recognize. Someone's been rerouting things. And I think I know who. I'm not just walking away. I'm digging. Because if they think I'm going to just vanish, they haven't met the version of me that comes after betrayal. Update 1. I didn't leave. I just changed the locks. You want to know what I did next? I didn't throw the phone. I didn't cry. I just sat there. In a motel bed that smelled like someone else's marriage. Staring at my call log. One hand on my knee. One hand on the remote. Flipping through late-night infomercials for miracle blenders and wrinkle erasers. Then I made 3 calls. One to a friend of mine, Rudy, who used to work IT for a credit union. He owes me a favor from way back, and trust me, the kind of favor where you drive someone's drunk sister to an abortion clinic and sit in the car for 6 hours with a baseball bat. That sticks. He got me info. Not much, but enough. The card Vanessa replaced on the loan? It was a joint account. With Charles. The dates lined up. 2 weeks after the graduation dinner, 2 weeks after I walked out. She gave Charles access. Maybe she told herself it was a backup plan. Maybe she told herself I was being petty. Or maybe, just maybe, she decided I wasn't needed anymore. They were going to take over payments. Apparently. Clean my name off the books like dry erase ink. But they didn't pay. They just shifted the liability around and played house. Like I never existed. Like I was a ghost in my own history. The second call was to a locksmith. I still had the deed. The house was in my name. Vanessa never wanted the paperwork headache. She said it made her anxious. So everything. Every brick, every closet, every damn cabinet filled with coffee mugs she bought for aesthetics, was mine. He changed the locks at noon the next day. I sat on the front step and watched the sun slice through our Japanese maple like it had any right to be beautiful. She came home that night. I was waiting. She parked crooked. Like she always does when she's upset. Stormed up the walkway in heels I hadn't seen in months. Makeup slightly off. Not like she was going out. More like she was dressing for a battle she thought she could win. "What the F*** are you doing here?" she snapped. "Changing things," I said. Calm. She tried the key. Didn't work. Then the panic set in. "This is my house, Dave." I handed her the paper. Deed. Title. Signature. Date. No lawyer. Just facts. She looked at it like it was written in a language she'd never learned. Like someone handed her a mirror she didn't want to recognize herself in. "You left," she whispered, almost to herself. "You walked away." I nodded. "From the table," I said. "Not the house." Then I asked her one question. "Why did you smile?" She blinked. "At the dinner, when Nate called Charles his real dad." "Why did you smile?" She opened her mouth. Closed it. Finally, she said, "Because he was happy." I almost laughed. No apology. No admission. Just utility. Her entire logic condensed into one sentence. If it made someone happy, it must have been right. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it. Softly. She sat in her car for an hour. I watched from the upstairs window, holding the watch box where my brother's Omega used to live. Empty now. Just velvet and ghosts. That night, Nate called. First time in weeks. "You locked Mom out of her own house," he spat. "Mine," I corrected. "Jesus, you're being insane. Did you know about the card?" I asked. Silence. "So that was a yes. You're burning everything down," he said. I chuckled. "No, Nate. I'm just watching you realize who kept the lights on." Then I hung up. The next morning, I filed a fraud inquiry on the loan. Since I never authorized the card change and my name was still on the liability, I had grounds. If they didn't pay, they'd both get flagged. Charles had money, sure, but not enough to shield a credit wrecking ball. I don't want money. I want memory. I want every job Charles applies for to raise eyebrows. Every apartment lease to come with questions. Every car dealership to ask why his score looks like a horror movie. And Vanessa? She still hasn't been back. She's been staying with Charles, I assume. Or her mother. Or in that ugly little Airbnb near the lake with the white shiplap and those live, laugh, love signs she used to mock before they became her reality. But I did hear from someone else. Nate's girlfriend. Her name's Eliza. She showed up on my porch 2 nights ago. No warning. Just a knock. I opened the door, expecting fury. Instead, I got tears. Can I sit? She asked. I nodded. She told me things I didn't know. Things I didn't want to know. Like how Charles had been hinting that once Nate graduated, they'd restructure the loan agreement. That he had ways of getting debts removed. Like how Vanessa said in front of Nate that I was emotionally manipulative for leaving. That I was too sensitive to be a real father. Like how she overheard them planning to move. Together. Without telling me. New state. New start. Leave the wreckage behind. I asked her why she was telling me. She wiped her eyes. Because I thought they were a family. But they're just a pyramid scheme with matching smiles. Then she left. Didn't even take her coat off. Today? I checked the call log again. 41 missed calls. But the last one? Was from a blocked number. Voicemail. Just heavy breathing. Then, a whisper. You don't know what you're doing. But I do. And next? Next I make them remember. All of them. Update 2, I made sure they'd never wear their last names the same way again. Yesterday, I walked into a notary's office with a folder under my arm and the kind of calm that doesn't come from forgiveness, but calculation. Inside the folder were copies of everything. Loan agreements. Payment transfers. The fraudulent card change. Text transcripts Eliza sent me. A timeline. Names. Phone numbers. Statements. Not for court. Not yet. Just enough to be undeniable. The notary was a woman in her 50s. Sharp. Professional. Her eyes didn't widen when she read the papers, just narrowed. She said, do you want these made public? I said, not yet. Just verified. Step 1, foundation. Step 2 happened 30 minutes later in a coffee shop where the barista drew smiley faces on lattes like that could cleanse people's sins. I opened a laptop. Logged into an anonymous Medium account I created the night Charles called me man, like we'd shared war stories. Title, When You Fund a Future That Erases You, A Stepfather's Story. I uploaded everything. No names. Just roles. But enough detail, specific numbers, school names, professions that anyone who knew them even peripherally would know. I ended the post with a quote from Nate's toast. To my real dad, thanks for making this possible. I didn't link it anywhere. Didn't need to. It hit 100K views overnight. Because gossip spreads faster when it's grounded in receipts. By noon, my inbox had 6 requests from podcast producers. By evening, a local journalist emailed, would you be willing to verify this account? Off the record at first. And then the messages changed. From Vanessa. Please take this down. People are asking questions. From Nate. WTF is wrong with you? I can't walk across campus without someone calling me Crypto Nepo baby. From Charles. You made your point. Delete it. That one made me laugh. I didn't respond. But I did do something else. I called the loan company. Told them I was done. That I wanted the debt transferred fully to the secondary signer, Nate. Explained the circumstances. Gave them the same documents. They're reviewing it. Slowly. Carefully. If they approve, he'll owe everything I paid. With interest. But what really twisted the knife was Eliza. She broke up with Nate. Publicly. She left a comment on the Medium post. I was the girlfriend. I watched this unfold. I believed them. I shouldn't have. The comments exploded. Suddenly the inspiring story of Nate going from working class to MIT darling had another side. One with blood on the checkbooks. Vanessa's friends started messaging me too. Quietly. Anonymously. I never liked how she spoke about you, one wrote. We always knew who did the real parenting. I didn't respond to them either. I'm not doing this for praise. I'm doing it because I want the narrative corrupted. I want every job interview Nate walks into to carry the whisper of the story. I want Vanessa to sit through every Facebook memory that pops up with a reminder she smiled at my erasure. And Charles? He's already selling the Porsche. Market's bad. Crypto crashed again. Call it karma or just timing. But the universe finally co-signed my vengeance. And me? I'm living somewhere new. Different town. Different life. Still alone. But not empty. I've started sleeping again. Not because I feel better. But because I don't need to stay awake to protect my name anymore. They took everything from me that felt like family. So I took everything back that looked like legacy. Update 3, I didn't just ruin them. I replaced them. I know how this sounds, but I need to say it, I don't regret a single thing I've done. I regret the time I wasted thinking love was enough. I regret selling that Omega watch thinking it meant sacrifice instead of surrender. But the rest? No. Every step was deliberate. Every silence I held became a chisel. Let me tell you what silence can build. After the post went viral, after Nate's reputation started to collapse under the weight of a truth no guidance counselor could sanitize, I vanished again, but this time into something I built. A small nonprofit. Real estate investments. Quiet consulting gigs with other men who'd been erased by the families they raised. Men like me. We built something underground. Quiet. Clean. Cash first. Paperlight. No fanfare. No legacy kids. Just the fathers no one clapped for. We called it the debt room. And guess who stumbled into it 6 months later, looking for mentorship? Nate. Different name. Different email. Same credentials. Same ambition. He didn't recognize me. The beard helped. The fake glasses didn't hurt. We had a phone interview first. He pitched me on revolutionizing legacy systems with clean code economics. The same nonsense Charles used to peddle to Bitcoin forums in 2014 before filing for bankruptcy. I said we were interested. We flew him out. Put him up in a motel with scratchy towels and a key that barely worked. Then brought him into a boardroom that smelled like cigarette ghosts and disinfectant. It was just me. No one else. He walked in, extended a hand. Arrogant. Smiling. Hopeful. Then froze. Dave? I smiled. Have a seat. He didn't move. So I did. I opened a folder and slid it across the table. Inside, everything. Loan papers. Emails. Transcripts. Screenshots. Copies of the Medium post. A notarized affidavit from Eliza. A mock-up resume with fraudulent background, do not hire, watermarked across the top in red. And a final document. A contract. Offering a consulting retainer. $50 per hour. Clerical work only. No benefits. No future. Just a job. Why? He whispered. Not defiant. Not furious. Just broken. Because now, I said, you get to decide who you are when no one believes in you. I left him there. Didn't take the folder. Didn't look back. Later that night, I got a text from a number I blocked twice already. Vanessa, I heard what you did. You're disgusting. I didn't respond. I just forwarded the message to her employer's ethics department, along with a package of documentation proving she'd falsified financial documents during our marriage to mislead a lender. Don't know if she'll be fired. Don't care. This wasn't revenge. This was a recalibration. They wanted a world where I didn't exist? Fine. But I built a version of that world they can't escape. Now every Google search whispers. Every LinkedIn message dies unanswered. Every friend becomes a maybe. And me? I'm still here. Still watching. Final update soon. And when I tell you how this ends, you'll understand why silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. Update 4, the will said everything I needed it to. It's been 7 months since the last time I saw Nate. He didn't take the job. Of course he didn't. He ghosted. Burned the folder in some motel trash bin, probably. Maybe he sobbed. Maybe he screamed. Maybe he finally realized what it feels like to build your future on someone else's bones only to find the marrow's been replaced with gasoline. Doesn't matter. Because a month ago, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. But the handwriting? Vanessa's. Inside, a single sheet of paper. A printed obituary. Charles Whitmore, 54, passed suddenly after a stroke in his sleep. Survived by his son, Nathan. Known for his entrepreneurial spirit and contributions to several tech startups. A photo of them together at a TEDx event. Nate in a fitted suit. Charles grinning like a man who never learned the meaning of the word enough. I laughed. Long, loud. Hollow. Because the universe didn't need me to finish them. It just needed me to wait long enough for the rot to show. But that wasn't the end. A week later, I got another envelope. This one was from a lawyer. Inside, a scanned copy of Charles's will. Apparently, in his final 6 months, after the crypto crash, after the job rejections, after Nate stopped answering his calls, he tried to rewrite his legacy. Tried to make things right. And guess what? He left his estate, his assets, what little was left. To me. To David Ethan Malik. The only man who ever actually fathered my son. One final twist in the knife. And Nate? He contested it. Of course he did. He filed objections. Claimed fraud. Filed affidavits from Vanessa saying I manipulated Charles in his final days. But guess what was attached to the will? A thumb drive. A recording. Charles, shaky-voiced, but clear. I don't want Nate to have it. He was raised with everything and still managed to disrespect the man who gave him a life. I've made mistakes. Dave didn't. This is how I say sorry. The lawyer verified it. Signed. Witnessed. It's airtight. I now legally own everything Charles left behind. The last name. The house in Sedona. The copyrights to 2 minor patents. And the rights to the story. I sold it. To a film studio. Vanessa tried to sue. Nate sent a cease and desist. But you can't copyright a trauma you didn't pay for. They made me a consulting producer. And when the credits roll, it won't say inspired by a true story. It'll say, based on the life of David E. Malik. And in the final scene? The graduation dinner. Word for word. Fork clink. Toast. That smile. But this time, the father doesn't pay the bill and vanish. This time he smiles back. And he burns the restaurant down behind him. Fade to black. Roll credits. And now? Now I sleep. Because this isn't closure. It's canon. And they'll never escape it. Not in life. Not in legacy. Not in memory. Because I didn't get revenge. I became the story they tried to bury. And I made sure the dirt stuck to their hands forever.